Capcom released 3 different Mega Man games for 3 different consoles at the end of 1993, and I recently played them all. Today's focus is Mega Man 6 on the NES. It was ridiculous back then, and it seems even more ridiculous now. Who needed 6 games from the same series just on one console? Why weren't Capcom making the jump to the Super Nintendo? In North America, Mega Man 6 didn't come out until 1994, which was the final year of NES games. So my expectations were high. Surely they pushed the console to its limits and proved why they stayed there for one more game. Set in the year 20XX, this time the 8 new Robot Masters are from the first annual Robot Tournament. Mr. X sponsored the tournament and took control of them to help take over the world. He claims he manipulated Dr. Wily the whole time and no longer needs him in the plan. Those two don't look alike either. Mega Man takes his Robo-Dog Rush with him and they set off to defeat 8 more Robot Masters. So, a new villain, but more of the same. You're going to take out 8 Robot Masters, then play 4 stages leading up to Mr. X, and maybe another 4 stages after that for no particular reason. I would have liked to see a bigger shakeup than that, and everyone felt that way back in the 90s too. There are some interesting additions to the gameplay, however. Wow, Rush is your backpack now, isn't that exciting? It's a strange idea, but it allows for 2 powers Mega Man has never had before. Upon beating 2 certain stages, you'll pick up an adapter allowing Rush to change Mega Man's suit. The Jet adapter grants flight for a couple seconds, and the Power adapter enables you to charge up a punch. That one probably didn't help sell this game when you already have a chargeable buster. Its main function is to break cracked blocks, which I actually enjoyed. There were often helpful items such as health and weapon energy inside the blocks, and the hardest blocks to reach even contained 1-ups and E-tanks. In the end, the Power Suit had significantly more utility than the Jetpack. They're both fine additions, but I have to say, I strongly disliked Mega Man's inability to slide while using a Rush adapter. I get that he has something on his back, but this just forces me to open the menu more often. You can't even charge up the buster with the Jetpack equipped. Since the progression through the game is essentially the same for the 6th time, I'm trying out a new sequence of reviewing each stage. First, I'll focus on the stages themselves in the order I played them. When I've finished all 8, I'll go back through again to talk about the boss fights with the Robot Masters and their brand new weapons. I don't know if the format will work, but let's try it. As always, you can start with any Robot Master, and I go through in the order of their weakness chain. Windman was first in the Mechanical Tower. When you select a stage, you get a lot more cool info, none of which really matters, but I liked seeing the named locations. I didn't see any real wind in Windman stage though. Mechanical wind isn't really wind, and even then it was utilized less than I expected. Powerful fans can push Mega Man up or down, while I was expecting something that would push to the sides as well. With that said, this is one of the better vertical stages so far. While the outdoor wind was missing, the platforming high in the sky felt fun. If only there had been wind with changing directions to make it a better challenge. Instead, we got a ton of giant pandas. Similarly to the Robot Tournament in the story, Capcom held contests for their players to design bosses for new Mega Man games. Mega Man 6 was the only game in the original series to include winners from outside of Japan. Only 2 though. I've heard from many people that every stage was based on the winner's country, so Windman was a submission from China, hence the pandas. Yeah, I doubt it. Windman's designer was called Michael Leader. I don't know why the pandas are there. China's history with video games is very odd to say the least, so it would be unlikely to have a submission from there. Flame Man has a new gimmick that works well. His area is the oil field, which also seems to have an Arabian palace and desert theme. The oil slows Mega Man down, but it's harmless, at first. Soon, small fire-dropping enemies will float across the screen, igniting the oil with deadly flames. You definitely don't want to stay in the oil for long. Another enemy, named Pooker, can only be taken out with a fully charged shot or the Power Suit, and if it flips over into the oil, it becomes a platform. Add in the fireball throwing Night Slater, and you have 3 different challenges with the oil. This is possibly the best executed stage in the game, and it keeps you on your toes. These Fire Boys are a great hazard even without oil around, since their fireballs make a few jumps much harder. From one extreme to another, we go to Blizzard Man stage on Frozen Island. It's covered in ice, which is usually obnoxious. It was mostly fine here though. The most memorable part is underground, with a submarine bobbing up and down below a spiky ceiling. This is by far the most interesting use of the Power Suit too. You get big rewards for reaching tricky locations, which is how it should be. Most other instances give too much for nothing. I don't know how to feel about this next stage. It's the Forgotten Area and Plant Man lives there. Ever since mini-bosses were introduced, it seems they simply haven't have to appear twice in the same stage, as is the case with Gorilla Tank. Yeah, whatever, I don't care about this mini-boss. I do care about the second half of the stage though. They call this the Forgotten Area, yet it feels like this is the only area they didn't forget about. This second half packs so many challenges together, and it gave me a hard time. I don't understand why there are so many springs on the ground, although they make the platforming interesting. I like the health pickups growing on flowers in the trees. A lot of enemies appear suddenly, which I didn't appreciate, but the rest of the game doesn't really feel like Mega Man. Mega Man 5 was made easier on purpose, and Mega Man 6 felt easier still. The next 4 stages each have an alternative ending. If you find the hidden boss, which I believe is the real Robot Master, you'll gain a part of Beat the Bird after defeating them. I had to go back into one of these stages, and I noticed that the color palette changes on the second visit. Tomahawk Man lives in the restricted area, and your brother Proto Man has a secret here too. To reach it, you need to break a block above a spike pit with the power suit. The rest of the stage has a nice set of backgrounds with mountains and later a sunset, and the primary enemy is Colton. I get it, they're cowboys with guns, or Colts. Then it was time for Yamato Man in the Impregnable Fortress. To earn such a title, the fortress should probably improve its defenses. It has 2 easy entrances, and the whole stage is divided. The paths meet in the middle, where you have to take another choice to go to the end of the stage. I mean, it's fine, but this stage didn't do much for me as a whole, and I don't understand the reason for dividing it. The remaining stages are for Nightman in the capital of science and Centaur Man in the ancient city. What, so only 1 quarter horse except all robot? That makes as much sense as these 2 stages. It's as if they had too many individual leftover ideas and threw them all together. Nightman's castle has a descending spiky ceiling, and eventually it turns into a bouncy castle. I think I'd prefer a bouncy castle aesthetic to randomly lining the floor and ceiling with bouncy bumpers. Centaur Man's ancient city is flooded, and it ends up as one of the laziest water stages in the series. Other than this gravity-defying water, I guess. It's creative, though not much of a challenge. The pelican enemies are fairly creative too, as they drop fish from their mouths. The fish flop around as a land hazard and die when they touch the water. Logic. Huh, I heard everyone liked this more than Mega Man 5. It's fine, but if you already didn't like 5, I don't see why you would like 6. Let's quickly go over the Robot Master fights and their weapons. One good thing, the weapons finally get a cutscene to show their functions, which was long overdue. Windman hovers through the air, and it's pretty easy to avoid him when he returns to the ground. I only had the Buster, and it's a fairly efficient fight with the charge shots. His weapon, the Windstorm, is nothing special. Such cute little whirlwinds traveling along the floor. Flame Man aggressively uses his Flame Blast, but you can find safe spots to stand. He jumps around a lot, which actually makes Windstorm a good weakness since it stays on the ground and you need to time it correctly. Blizzard Man is difficult to hit with anything. He rolls up into a big snowball and charges Mega Man and is invulnerable during this time. Shooting him with a short-range flame blast is tough, and the thin flame pillars left on the ground are rarely helpful. The Blizzard attack gained from this fight is something I would never use outside of bosses because its range is odd and it takes a moment to move. Plant Man uses his Plant Barrier. Hooray, it's the 4th shield weapon of the series. At least it makes his fight interesting, because the weakness is the slow blizzard attack. However, once you get into a rhythm, it also becomes easy. Tomahawk Man fights with a couple different projectiles, and all you have to do is get close and ram into him with a plant barrier. Conveniently, that barrier will block those projectiles, although it depletes the shield energy quickly. You gain the Silver Tomahawk from this, and it curves upwards after being thrown. Yamato Man successfully deals damage, but his pattern is pretty plain. Jump around twirling the spear and shoot out 3 projectiles. You earn the Yamato Spear from him, which is very similar to the Buster somehow. Wow, it can travel slightly up and down in its trajectory. Nightman is a pushover. The Yamato Spear pierces his shield, making for one of the easiest fights if you have his weakness. I wish I had tested this fight with the Buster. The Night Crush is a bigger projectile, I guess, and sometimes it pretends to be a boomerang. Centaur Man apparently has the power of teleportation and shoots with a similar Buster to Mega Man, except it splits into 5 and deflects back after contact with a wall. He can also use his Centaur Flash because Capcom wanted to give you a weapon that already existed, even if it makes no sense for a Centaur. It's Windman's weakness, which you can use in the refights later. Am I missing something? Look, the game is fine, but it's also the 6th in the series. I'm almost experiencing the same burnout for the series that everyone did back when it was released. The thing is, I'm sure I would love this game if I played it first and didn't know the standards set beforehand. I can't be too harsh, but I will be harsh nonetheless because I'm disappointed after playing the previous games. That much is probably clear already. How many weapons were actually brand new? Did the stages flow together as well as I expected? I won't spend too much time on the end game. It follows the established structure, 4 stages from one villain, and then 4 stages from the real villain. Well, this time they're the same person. Mr. X is actually Dr. Wily. I never suspected anything. At least he didn't pin the blame on someone real this time. You'll need to use the Rush adapters, and flight with a jetpack controls differently from Mega Man's previous flights with Rush. It's sort of new. However, I don't think it was used creatively. The whole series is good at introducing a challenge and reusing it more creatively throughout the stage, also increasing in difficulty. This time, they achieved this by adding a couple more enemies or something like that. The bosses bring in some creativity with some great designs and some questionable. This certainly is a way to draw a tank. Mechasaurus is the most interesting because of its interactive elements like the body segments it throws out for platforms. You'll need to use these since you have to shoot its head. This boss is memorable, but some of the memories are bad because the head's hitbox is inconsistent. At least its weakness is the Yamato Spear and not the Silver Tomahawk. It felt like half of the bosses took extra damage from the Silver Tomahawk, including all 3 phases of the final boss. Wily couldn't figure out how to block tomahawks, but he did learn how to have a pretty sweet boss song. Oh, and he finally gets thrown in jail after his defeat. Okay, here's the thing. This game is better than I made it sound, but this is the 6th game in the series and it isn't doing enough to wow me. I would be more forgiving if this had more innovative ideas, even if it introduced no new mechanics. I set my expectations at the start of this video. I wanted Capcom to push the NES to its limits and prove why they stayed with the 8-bit system. That's not what I saw. What bothered me the most, however, is the fact that I could beat this game in under 2 hours and I did not use a single save state. I'm a terrible Mega Man player. This game felt even easier than the last one though, and that goes against what the series is all about. You don't even lose your E-tanks from a game over, and they're more easily available when you have the power suit. So that covers my beef with this game. Now, with that said, there are plenty of positives to take away, and my final score for Mega Man 6 will be 7.3 out of 10. The confusing part is that I would absolutely recommend it to a newcomer. It's probably the best place to get into the series. It won't punch you in the face, unlike the games I consider to be better than this one. And while the backpack idea is a weird one, it's intuitive to use and doesn't run out of ammo like Rush usually would. The mechanics are well polished, and you might think that about the stage designs too. I just have other opinions based on what I've already played. I gave it a lower score than Mega Man 1, but I think it's a far better game. My scores partially reflect on the time the games were released, and I thought Mega Man 1 was impressive for 1987, whereas Mega Man 6 wasn't the best effort for a 1993 title. It seems that the reviewers at release agreed with that assessment and were even more critical. Electronic Gaming Monthly awarded it with an average score of 6.75 out of 10, with everyone appearing rather bored of the series. Nintendo Power's power ranking total was 14.6 out of 20, continuing the gradual decline for the Mega Man games. It was impossible for the series to impress Famitsu even before this point, and their average score this time was only 5.75 out of 10. Tell me, did you agree with the points I've made? What rating would you give Mega Man 6 for the NES, initially released in 1993? Hit the like button to get a dog for a backpack, and subscribe to sponsor a robot. As ever, thank you for watching, and please continue to be your own unique self. Impregnable. Whoa, that's a big word for Elmo.